Hi friends, how are you? I miss you all so much. So for science today we're talking about erosion. Now, we learned about weathering yesterday, and now weathering and erosion, they're kind of like a team. They work together. So yesterday we learned about erosion, we learned about weathering and how weathering was the breakdown of rocks into smaller pieces. We said water can cause this, tree plants, we said, the wind, ice, all these different things can cause it. Well, when those little rocks break down, they have to go somewhere. Something else happens, and that's where erosion comes in. Okay, so before we even get started with today, those little rocks, little pieces of rocks that break off the big rock. So let's say you have a really big rock and now it cracked into two, right? There are going to be little pieces of rock that fall off of it. Those are called sediments. Okay, so we're going to talk about those today with erosion, and then you'll have a Nearpod, and then we'll move on tomorrow to deposition. So let's get started. So I have here, I'm going to just move it so you can see everything. Okay, perfect. So erosion. I'm going to read this. I'm going to show you some images just like I did yesterday, and we'll talk about some stuff. So erosion is the process by which water, ice, wind, or gravity move pieces of rock and soil. The crushed rocks and rubble are called sediments, and when it rains, they are washed away into streams. So let's pause for a second and talk about this. So we talked about weathering yesterday and how that was the breakdown of the rocks, how the rocks actually break. Now, erosion is the pieces of rock moving. Okay, so step one was the rock broke from weathering. Now you have all these little tiny pieces of rock and soil, and they're called sediments. So now erosion takes the sediments, the rock and the soil, and moves it. So now our rock broke, the wind comes in, and now it's being moved, or the water, we have erosion now. Okay? We're not getting back to when they drop yet. That's tomorrow. So we're only on the middle part right now. So we have weathering, my rock, it was a hole, it broke. All the little pieces fell off of it. Erosion comes in now, and now it's moving it, either through water, ice, wind, or gravity. So let's see. If it does not rain, strong winds can blow them away. Gravity makes soil and rocks move downhill. So we have water. If it rains, right, the rain's coming down, friends, and it's going to take all that water and move all the little sediments, the rock and the soil, into nearby streams or rivers or whatever nearby water there is. But what if you're in a place that doesn't rain? Like I'm in the middle of a desert. Erosion still happens there. That's where the wind comes in. If the wind comes in and moves some sand, the rocks, the soil, that's how erosion is done if there's no rain. And then there's gravity too, because we know that gravity brings everything down. So if we have something up on the top of a hill and the water comes in or the wind comes in, it's going to roll down or fall down, right? So we have water, wind, gravity. And ice goes with water, friends. So the same thing if the water freezes and maybe it's a glacier, it breaks off and it's floating away, the sediments may be frozen in that water. It's still water. We learned that though. So ice is frozen water. Okay. Erosion can happen quickly or take thousands of years. For example, the Grand Canyon, located in Arizona, is a very big hole in the ground. That is the result of constant erosion by the Colorado River. It took over millions of years as rocks were taken away. So if I look here, I see the river here. Now, little by little, as that river goes, it's going to take a little bit of rocks. And in the beginning, we're not going to notice a little bit of rocks missing. but over thousands of years, millions of years, there's going to be a difference because that's a lot of rocks that are missing over a lot of years. So let's look at some pictures and talk about them. Okay, so for example, I found this picture and it was pretty interesting because it looks like this was a road and it was broken. Now, what happened here, friends, is the water, when it has high tide, that just means that the water who normally might come up to like here, during high tide it comes up further. And it might come up if, say, the road like ended right around here, little by little it's taking some of the loose rocks, the loose soil with it and going back into the water. So little by little, if the road was out here, let's say, in the beginning, the first time the water hit the road in the dirt, we're not going to see anything, maybe even the second time, but over years, it got to this. It took so many rocks and so much soil or dirt that eventually it turned into this. And pieces got loose and they just went into the ocean. So this is how the water caused erosion on this street. Similar to what we have here. This also has to do with gravity though, because it's going downhill. Now, I don't see any water nearby, but rain could have done this. As the rain comes down, it could have brought and gravity took the rain down the hill. There could have been loose rocks and loose soil that went down these holes now, right? Same thing with wind. If it's a very windy area, it could do the same thing. Going back to water and even wind here, we have a hole in this rock right here. It was once full. As the water just kept coming up and getting higher and the wind kept blowing, together the wind and the water were working together and erosion was occurring here. Little pieces of rock were just going with it every single time and eventually it created a hole. Same thing with this picture, friends. I don't really see any water around, but I know if it rains or I know the wind. Maybe there were just a few loose rocks and as it kept going and the years kept going on, eventually it changed. This was once full. All right, so erosion is moving the little pieces of rock, so sediments, moving them somewhere else. Now, again, this can happen quickly, but really we normally see it when it takes a long time, okay? If a big rock fell or broke because of weathering and then, the gravity kicked in just from where it was placed, that could be a quick change. But normally erosion and weathering, they're all slowly over a long period of time, okay? You take a little bit of rocks, and if you keep doing that over and over and over again, you're eventually going to have a big hole or a big difference. It's going to look different, right? So erosion is moving the sediments. All right, friends? Have a great day. Bye.